Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is James Kendall, and I'm delighted to be joined by my favourite colleague, Michelle Smith.
Good
Michelle?
morning. I like that. I like the favourite colleague part.
Yeah.
I hope
Well,
the
yeah,
lads are listening from the Sun
you know what
Lounges.
it's like. You have to work with those two as well, so not much
Yeah,
of
I
a
know.
choice, is
Yeah,
there?
I know. Yeah. I'm not, I won't take it too much to my head.
Favourite to default. So, in true traditional each week, how has your week been?
Oh, well, marvellous. I've been in Rhodes. Um, so it's been great. Just sunshine, nice food, family time. I
Mm.
don't actually think I've relaxed as much on holiday since before kids, because they're
Oh,
just
wow.
at that age now where they just do their own thing. Isla found some friends that she was bombing around with, and
Nice.
Amelia is obsessed with getting a tan. She's 13, so she, dedicated her time and energy into that.
Going on
Um,
21 by the sounds of it.
yeah, yeah, totally. Um, so yeah, it was lovely. And the thing that I enjoyed most is just that mental unplug from the day to day and life,
Mm.
really. Um, which I know we're going to come into later, but it really makes my brain work in a different way. I always come up with ideas for work, for life. So yeah, that mental unplug has been amazing. So I've had a great week. Thank you.
Good. Well, on the flip side, to be fair, we've had a half decent week estate agency wise. We've got some challenges with sales progression at the moment, with buyers wanting reductions and sellers not wanting to give them. So a little bit of a stalemate there, but we're working our way through, and we've had a fall through this week, which is a 325 grander, which they always sting whenever something goes, but it never stings as much as something does when you lose it at £1 million.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, overall, vals have picked up. The bulk of all of our letters have gone out now as well. All of our market updates have gone out. So the diary today, I've got a shoot and I've got three vals today, and I've got three vals tomorrow. Um, I'm pretty slammed at the moment, to be honest, which is it's a nice place to be. And just talking about holidays, we had obviously bank holiday weekend just gone, closed for the weekend, so it was nice to have the weekend off and just have some quality time with the family, really, and do some bits with the kids. And we had the pool out in the garden. Sounds way more glamorous than it actually is. It's a £15 pool from Aldi Middle Isle, filled with hose water. But the kids had a great time.
I mean, that's all you need, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I'm gonna
Bit
say
of
what in the front
tarpaulin and
garden
washing
council
up
estate is
liquid.
going on here. But but yeah. Anyway, so we were going to talk this week. You had a great topic lined up about holidays and switching off. So do you want to before I ask you to unpack it, do you want to package it
I've done
up?
enough in unpacking, JK. I spent a full day doing it yesterday and
All
washing.
right, rub it in. We know you've been on holiday.
Um, yeah, whilst I was in Rhodes, so my day, I wake up really early anyway, and I was always the first one up. So I'd go out the room and walk and go get a coffee, and then sit on the balcony. And as I kind of alluded to in the intro, I really had time to mentally unplug from not only work, but my day to day life as, being a mom and having two kids, two horses, three dogs, la, la, la,
Mm.
and out of the normal routine. And what I found happening was all of these creative ideas that I don't really have time to access that part of my brain as often. So, one of the things that came up, I was reflecting on a coaching session that I'd had with one of my clients, um, who is phenomenal, really good agent in the premium space. And, like a lot of agents, she really struggles to switch off.
Mhm.
So, she was going away with her family over the bank holiday, 4 days. And one of the things we kind of talked around and I coached her on was being uncontactable for her clients, which was a really scary thing for her. So that kind of made me think more and more um, about business owners. And actually, firstly, the importance of having the time to really switch off from the day to day, because it's essential for your own kind of mental health and well-being, but also to allow the creativity to come forward, for your business and for your life. And then secondly, the reasons why that can be so difficult and so tricky, and the traps that we can fall into. So I thought that would be a really interesting thing to have a chat about on the podcast, because I'm sure a lot of business owners and business people will relate to this.
So what does it look like then? Let's unpack it.
So I think there's two key elements to it. I think there's the client side and then there's your team side. So if you run a business where you have team members, this will apply to you. If you are a solo agent, or if you run a business, the client side will also apply to you. And this doesn't just come for holidays. I think this lies around boundaries. Um, but boundaries is a term that it's bandied around all the time, and I think boundaries can be really, really tricky, because people can find it difficult to set a boundary, and there will also be a narrative that they're running in their mind as to why they can't set a different boundary. So you've really got to get underneath the reasoning. So we can start with clients first. And a few things pop to my mind. I know kind of availability and opening hours if you have a branch. These are all boundaries. And setting a boundary around client expectation and communication um, can be really easy. And I think a lot of times it can be overthought.
Mm.
Um, so, an example, I know Ian, quite a while ago, a few years ago, closed on a Saturday. So, they are a Monday to Friday operation. And that had been ummed and ahed about for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But actually, the reality of setting that new boundary, and that new expectation with the clients, it was really easy. Everyone accepted it. So I think often it's the thought of it that is the problem, not the actual physical execution of it. Um, there's also something that comes up with confusing the premium service with 24/7 availability.
Mm.
So back in the day, I remember um, being sat in someone's front room when I was working for a corporate. And if you were open half an hour later than the independent down the road, that is one of the USPs that you would talk about. We
Mm.
work harder, we're there longer. And it's a load of bull. People want a result, and you don't want to fall in the trap of trying to push the quantity over the quality and the result.
No.
um, so I think one of the first things that I would recommend people to do is, how are they setting themselves up for the expectation of client contact? Are they saying, I'm on the end of the phone, I'm there 24/7? Because it's quite easy to do. But again, that's quite easy to unpick and set new expectations. What do you think about that?
A lot of clients are a lot of clients are really understanding. And the right clients are the ones, and it all goes down to who you attract as clients, and if they're made of the same sort of moral fiber as you are. They understand that you have a family. They understand that you're not going to be 24 hours, 85 days a week. It's the like you said earlier, the USP, and where my mind went when you were talking about open longer and more available is, are you a McDonald's, or
Mm,
are you a gourmet burger outfit, and a gourmet restaurant, because anyone could get. I mean, look, McDonald's is probably unfair to use as an example because their pro systems and processes are exceptional, and you can get pretty much the same burger anywhere on the earth. But what I mean by that is that it's mass produced. It does a job to a degree, an unhealthy one. Probably a really bad example, actually. Are you a Tesco Express, or maybe are you a fast fit? A fast fit garage that's got low skill. You're going to take your Ferrari into a fast fit garage that's open later, or do you want to wait for the specialist that knows your car
mm,
inside out and is going to take good care of your car, knows all of the intricacies and how it works, It's like anything, there's always someone that's more available. There's always someone that's open later. There's always someone that can do it cheaper.
Mm.
But people will wait for good service. And if you can demonstrate that you are the best agent, and in terms of your results and what you achieve, and if you become that almost attraction agent as well, people will naturally gravitate. They won't ask how when you're I mean, I can remember, touch wood, the last time somebody asked me when we were open.
Mm.
um there is other exceptions to the rules where I've represented clients in Australia, Singapore, Canada, where we've agreed up front that we're going to have a weekly catch up call.
Mm.
But that call is going to be out of my kind of usual day to kind of help them, if that makes sense. So sometimes that would be at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night once a week. Um, but I'm happy to do. I've agreed to that, But equally, the rest of the time, they just let me get on with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you've set a really clear kind of agreement. The agreement has happened up front, hasn't it? I
Mm.
think where it can go wrong is that confusing, I suppose, quick response times with always having to be on.
Yeah,
So a quick response time can be achieved in lots of different ways. It doesn't mean that you have to be on 24/7 and not go away and have kind of uninterrupted family time or whatever it is that you want to do. I think one of the things that comes up if I ever deal with this type of stuff in a kind of coaching setting, it is definitely the meaning that somebody makes of it and the narrative that's running underneath. And this happens subconsciously. They're not making a conscious decision, and this isn't in the forefront of their mind. Their behavior is their behavior. Underneath it, there is definitely a positive intention. They're trying to give an excellent client service. And there is a fear element running underneath generally, which is making them do it. So once you get underneath that and really look at it and work through it, then they can come up with different scenarios and solutions. So I think making sure that the client communication and expectations are really clear. Practically, when you are going on holiday, either having a call in person or sending a message, depending on when you've last contacted them, and just explaining, I'm going away, having some much needed time with the kids. I
hmm
won't be available until X date. If the office is open and you want to do that, just say there are people available Monday to Friday. Should you need anything, I will catch up with you on my return. And it's being okay with what happens as a result of that. So it's working through what is the actual worst case scenario. Say if the world imploded for that
mm,
client and you weren't contactable for those 3 days, what actually is the worst that would happen?
yeah,
So it sounds quite simple, setting a boundary, communicating and setting the client expectation. Um, it is simple as long as you've unpacked all the stuff underneath and they feel okay with it and confident to move forward. Going back to my awesome coaching client, she did it like an absolute ledge and went away for bank holiday and had an amazing time and left her phone at home. How good's that?
wow.
And the world didn't implode. So, onwards and upwards, that's the first step of resetting a kind of bedded in behavior is doing something different. So, yeah,
So on those bits, so we've again a little while back, so we've done a couple of different things that I've had various different comments on from different people about. Oh, I don't know if I'll do that. Um, but like, so for example, we used to be nine till 6, and we changed to 9 till 5:30.
yeah,
And I did look at doing 5, but I just feel like I looked at the how often we get called. A lot of people sometimes wait till they finish work at 5 to then
yeah,
call. So we do need that extra sort of 15-20 minute buffer to give people the chance to call. Like, and I don't mean clients, I mean inquiries, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
The other thing we did is we again followed suit, closing on the Saturday as well, um, because we were employing someone to basically sit in the office, twiddle their thumbs, and answer 3 phone calls.
Yeah,
And it just wasn't really a productive. The person that was doing the Saturdays didn't really want to do the Saturday. Um, it's a hard position to fill to get someone just to work on a Saturday. But then also equally, just going back to the closing on Saturdays. Closing on Saturdays doesn't mean that your business is closed. What it means is that your core team is resting over the weekend, but your viewing assistants are taking care of the viewings over the weekend. So it's not like we're shut we're open Monday to Friday and shut weekends, so no viewings can happen.
No.
We have viewing specialists that take over the viewings at the weekend and have details of the people that they need to contact if they need to contact them for the viewings and bits and pieces, and update the sellers, etc. So I think the team part is important to have in play, but it's also the positive mental effect that it has on you as the business leader, in terms of it having your. So there's a couple of different things to kind of go through here. The first thing is your team, because if your team can suffer from burnout, that's when things start to slip,
Mm.
because and also they can end up resenting the job. If you're making, I remember working back in 2005, we used to do 6 6 9. So work 6 days, get 1 day off, work 6 days, get 1 day off, work 9 days, and then we'd get 2 days off. And
I mean, that's horrific.
it is horrific. I mean, I was, what was I then? 21 years ago, like 19.
How many days of those were you hungover, though? Let's be honest.
A lot, to be fair, a
9.
lot. I was, but also equally back then, I was earning 3 to 5 grand a month after tax,
Yeah.
like 21 years ago, which is like major money. I mean, I've got nothing to show for it, unfortunately, because, like you
You
say,
were
I spent the
hungover.
majority of my time hungover. But but for me, like again, I obliterated my mental health by. I didn't really have anything to focus on. I was just going through the daily motions and doing the job that I was good at, just loving the hustle, doing what I was doing every day, and banking the money. But then the money that was coming in, I was spending on cars and going out and just living my life, and I had nothing really to show for it. I didn't have any clear guidance on, maybe this month, maybe put £500 of that away
Yeah.
in investments, or do this or do that. So I think as I've got older, I mean, the Chinese proverb that I like to talk about, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you don't start, and I guess things just like my health as well. Like I got serious. I hit 40 September last year, and tried to get a lot more serious with my health. I've been playing football for a little while, but I've upped that, how much I've been playing. I've been really watching what I eat. Decided that I was going to try and straighten my teeth out with Invisalign, a journey that you know very well as well.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that. Um, and just, I guess, a lot of that all kind of, it's not kind of what we were discussing, but it kind of filters into what we were discussing, because one of the things that I had to get better at was enjoying holidays and taking holidays. Because if you
Yeah.
don't take holidays, then you are going to burn out. Regardless of whether you think you're burning out or not, you're wrong, because you are, and you can't do your best work unless if you're at 30-40% battery, or you're at 90% battery, like in terms of your mental state. Like, who's going to do the best work? Who's going to win the listings? Who's going to be the better person to work with and be around? Who's going to be the better business leader? Who's going to be the better friend? The person that's on 90%. And I empathize with your client that you coached with the other day, because that was me for a long time. I'm always here, I'm always available. And then you get certain clients that overstep boundaries that maybe haven't been set, or expectations haven't been set. And then sometimes you can end up resenting people that you're working for, like clients, because you see the number come up on your phone at 8 o'clock at night again,
Yeah.
and you think, I don't need this. But I'm lucky that that's not happened to me for a long, long time, because again, expectations have been set. Things like
Yeah.
WhatsApp are there, and as you say, it's about putting the right things in place. And I think maybe we can unpack some of that and give some practical tools. I know you love it. You love me unpacking that, but uh, put some tips and tools in place. I know we've done a little bit of that already, but maybe some
Yeah,
more practical tools.
absolutely. I think when you were talking then, JK, I think underneath all of this, it's reconnecting with your why. So, why do you run the business that you run? Why, what is your main motivation in life? And a lot of people, it is for a better life for them and their family. So, having that time off and for yourself to do things you enjoy, to spend time with your family, your friends, your loved ones, that is actually your why in life. So refocusing that, I think, is really helpful, because it gives you a bit more perspective on the reasons why it's
Mm.
important to set boundaries and give yourself set time off that you can enjoy. Um, so I think that is the very first, page one,
A lot
paragraph
of people
one.
don't know their why though, do they? That's a I think a lot of people, well, I certainly didn't before. I didn't really have a why. My why was I've been treated bad by my employer and I wanted to shut them down, which was a really negative why in the beginning. That drove me in the begin. It might surprise you to learn this, but I was a bit of a headless chicken in the early days of the
No,
business.
I don't see that at all,
No.
JK.
Like basically my stepdad said to me, "Why don't you just set up your own estate agency?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that. I haven't got any money though. How do I do this?" And this is long before the days of EXP. Bear in mind, I've been going 15 years now. And I took a credit card out and put the Rightmove subscription on the credit card. Got a camera. Had a company car, so I bought a cheap car for £500 that had to park around the corner. Um, but it was only really that I would say probably 8, 9 years ago that I really started to sort of, I suppose, understand what my why should be and what my real why is. Like you say, it's a better life for your kids, your family, like your wife, in general. Like being able to almost have that abundance, if that makes sense,
Mm,
in terms of whether it's time or whether it's options or whether it's where you go on holiday. But I also do think it is if you're why if you're and again I guess it will be for a lot of people. If your family is your why, don't burn out at work for your family because you still need to remember like, for example, your kids. So I've got a 9 and a 5-year-old, and one of my biggest regrets, but also one of my biggest learnings was not being present enough when my son, who's now 9, was a lot younger.
yeah.
So between the ages of 1 and 3. I mean, look, I'm not going to go too deep down the rabbit hole in the podcast. I'm not sure I was emotionally ready to be a dad at the time,
Mm,
and also emotionally in touch with myself. And I've had this conversation with my other half, like she knows this, but I have got a lot better, well, now than because some of these Instagram reels that come up like have really like impacted me, and really made me think that sometimes like my son's 9 now, and there will come a point at some point where he doesn't want me to put him to bed anymore and doesn't want to read a story together,
mm,
doesn't want to like chat. He'll want to do his own thing.
yeah,
But then my daughter has also got the benefit of that experience for me, whereas she's just turned 5 and she's got a far better version of me than my son had at that age. But a lot of that just comes from obviously being, I suppose, emotionally intelligent enough to recognize that. But a lot of that came from work. Like, I was a very busy fool. Like back in 2017, 2018, I would be proud and wear it like a badge of honor to be making calls to clients at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, or making excuses that I couldn't do bath time or bedtime because I had calls to make and stuff to do. Um, and the reality was, like, if I'd ran a better business at the time and been more emotionally intelligent and set better boundaries with clients, then I could have done all of that
yeah,
and probably been better. But again, it's just having that conversation with yourself. I think sometimes people need to be very honest with themselves about who they are, what their priorities are, and also to set boundaries. And if you're chasing after those 1% clients, those 1% clients are going to be the ones that give you the most hassle.
mm,
Whereas the 2% clients are the ones that understand your values, align with you and what you do. The price isn't the issue, it's you they want. and
Yeah.
it's the experience that you can provide. And I think there's a quote, isn't there? People don't buy what you do or who you are. People buy how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And, in the context of a house sale, do they feel important? Do they feel that you're going to be the one to help them secure their next home? Do they feel that you're the one that's got their best interests at heart? And regardless of any of that, they're going to choose you because they want you, and the boundaries are going to be a lot easier to set.
Definitely. Thanks, JK. That was really interesting. I think to summarize, I think it's knowing your why, knowing your worth, and attracting the right type of clients. So that they're the headlines, aren't they? And then underneath that, it's setting the expectations for communication, having your boundaries in place, um, etc., that allow it to be practical. There were so many kind of rabbit holes I wanted to go down then because
Yeah,
personal
sorry.
brand popped into mind, but we're going to have to park that. We'll have to get these other two off the podcast and me and you can just chat.
Yeah.
Um, the second thing that I think is really important to talk about is actually your team. So a lot of reasons why kind of business owners can't switch off is either they don't feel the team can handle everything in their absence, or the team don't feel like they can handle everything in your absence, and that creates the kind of need for contact. So this is probably a slower fix, but there's some really practical things that you can do to prepare your team. And as with every business owner, leader that I coach, the good news is all the problems are because of you. And therefore, you have a lot of power to fix it. So, that always goes down well with a coaching client. They come with me, oh, this is happening in my team, this is happening. And very kindly and gently, we kind of refocus of where actually that is coming from, and genuinely and generally it comes from the leadership that's happening within the team at the time. So some practical tips: don't solve all their problems. So if you notice that you have questions are asked to you all the time, this client has said this and this needs to happen, or this has happened with this supplier, what do I need to do? The automatic response is to give them the answer, give them the solution. But
Mm.
actually, that's a really short-term fix that creates a long-term problem. They need to have the autonomy and the confidence to be able to know what to do in those types of situations. So practically, what I suggest is ask them the question, don't answer it, and just say, what would you do? What do you think the right next step is? And if you feel they give you an answer that's full of holes, ask them questions. What would you do if they came back and said this?
Mm.
What would happen if they didn't take that well? Have you thought about this? So you're basically coaching your member of staff through a problem solving scenario. And what that does is it builds their confidence, it builds their problem solving skills, it gives them accountability, and it expands the comfort zone. So it's win, 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 win. So when you are wanting to go away and know that the staff can handle whatever's going to happen while you're away, doing this type of pre work is essential. Um, that is definitely where I would start. With that comes the need for them to feel psychologically safe to fail.
Mhm.
So, how are mistakes handled within your business? Because if you haven't got that, they'll be very reluctant to, operate in problem solving mode.
Yeah.
Um, the third thing is, how willing are you to let them solve a problem in a different way that you would solve it?
Mm.
And that's a really interesting one, because there's more than one right way.
Yeah, I think, from personal experience, I've gone almost the other way. I've gone from being very much almost a control freak a few
Mm,
years ago to kind of giving people that autonomy. And sometimes, mistakes do happen, but sometimes you have to kind of tell yourself what's the worst that can happen if you give the person that much um, autonomy. Is probably the best word in this instance. But what you do find is that the benefits far outweigh what the negatives could be, because it just means that, going taking it right back to what we were talking about at the beginning in terms of holidays. When you explain to your clients, oh, I'm off on holiday for a week, but the team are here, and something happens or something pops up, or like, for example, basic things like even not being on holiday, but the team doing a WhatsApp sweep every day,
Yeah.
so nothing is missed. Like setting those little micro habits within the sort of team culture, that what happens is, and then, for example, on the whiteboard, um, an offer's been made, but the AML hasn't been done. Like when the morning meeting, right? Okay, well, the AML hasn't come back yet. We need to chase the lifetime legal and for the check. But these are all things that previously I was having to ask in the morning
Yeah.
meeting, having to remember everything and going, what's going on with this? What's going on with this? What's going on with this? But having the systems in place and giving the team the autonomy that they can now go, like, for example, yesterday, we agreed a sale on a house, and the seller's away and the buyer's away, and I've been pretty much flat out this week, and the Amy, who's my sales progression manager, she is again in her mind going, right, okay, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do on this sale? Right, okay, we haven't had the solicitors in for the memo yet. She's automatically, without me having to go in the morning meeting, what's going on with this? The day before, she's already reached out to both parties and said, have you decided who you're going to instruct for your solicitor yet? So we can get the sales advice started. Like little practical things like that. But also equally, I think sometimes as a business owner, when you're not giving your team autonomy, the problems that you're creating that you think are going to come in are far smaller than you could ever imagine. You imagine nuclear World War III sometimes when you think what could happen, when the
Mm.
reality is generally nothing does happen. And as you said earlier, what is the worst that could happen that
Mm.
isn't going to be fixable within a week of you returning? Ian shared a practical tip that he uses when he goes away. I'm sure that's probably something that you've helped him implement, and he's passed it off on his own. There's another guy in PTA a bit like that, but we won't talk about him. But just in terms of having that Ian's holiday on the WhatsApp group, where all the core team are in there, it's pinned to the top of his WhatsApp, and anything that can't be dealt with, that is nuclear and needs his attention,
Mm.
just goes in that group. So there's only one group to look at while he's away. And if it does need action in, he can get on with it. But equally, he can enjoy his holiday. The other thing I would just say on this, like, whilst it's great to switch off on holiday, like me and Ian and Dave have both, all three of us rather, have all said before that there is something quite cool about, because obviously we're in the upper end of the market, you have like buyers and clients that sometimes do need you available, even if you are halfway around the world.
Mm.
And there is somewhat of a buzz of sitting around the pool in Dubai, and the client knows you're away, the buyer knows you're away, and you've got your AirPods in, like you've got the pool running in the background. There's nobody around, and you're negotiating a £3.5 million deal, like around the poolside. There's something that's quite gives me a bit of a buzz about doing that, which is why I do what I do. Um, but it's not the same as, oh, such and such has just happened. Oh, so and so's pulled out. Oh, this has happened. What do we need to do? Like you said earlier, it's the practical advice in terms of your team being able to handle those situations. And if there is anything that does turn nuclear, then give them the tools and the almost the instructions really. And if this happens, we would do this. If that happens, we could do that. But also check this, and this before, because if let's say, for example, it's a sale that's fallen through and it's only been agreed, and unless it's been agreed 5 weeks, we know that has to be off Rightmove for 7 weeks in order to appear as a brand new instruction. So you're going to have to deliver the news to the client either way, and say to the client, look, unfortunately the buyer has fallen through. Like this week, for example, we've, as I said, we've had a one fall through. The advice to our client, and again, this is exact scenario, is not going to be to relaunch immediately in the middle of half term when has been a quieter week for viewings. Like the
Mm.
valuations, for some reason, it's been mental, and take-ons, but for viewings, it's been a bit quieter. But having the ability to just say to your team, look, you deal with this. And so, yeah, sorry, where I was going, I completely lost my train of thought there because I was thinking about two different things. But anyway, what I was trying to say is with that client, the advice my team are going to give them is to wait until 7 weeks. So they'll say to the client, "Look, we've been sold for 5 weeks. If we just go back to market now, we're in the middle of half term, viewings are quieter, but also to relaunch as a brand new listing on Rightmove, we just need to hold off for a couple of weeks. That gives us enough time to get the school holidays out of the way, launch as a fresh listing, and we can go at it with a brand new strategy, relaunching as a new house online. Right now, for the sake of 2 weeks, it's going to do the damage. Now the team understand that." They can articulate that to the clients. And that's just another example of giving them the tools and training so that if that happens, that's just dealt with. So yeah, it's about giving them I suppose the tools and tactics to be able to do what they need to do, and handle it with that autonomy that you discussed before. Um, and I mean, I did want to just briefly talk about, because we had a couple of people reach out about lack of interest this week.
Yeah.
Their listings not getting enough interest, which we'll go on to in a minute. But just before that, I had something on the tip of my tongue that I wanted to talk about with you, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about today, is coaching.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't do coaching because they don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
And I think this podcast has been very helpful, I think, in kind of explaining what coaching can be without saying what coaching is. I think a lot of people in their mind get into their mind that coaching, right team, for me, again, I was very much not anti-coaching, but I just didn't believe in it because I didn't really know what it was. I don't need somebody on a Zoom call with me going, "Well done, you're doing great job." Right. That's £5,000, please. Um, but that's kind of how I saw it. I thought, well, I'm a good estate agent. Why do I need somebody to coach me? Um, when in reality, all the best high performing people in the world have advisors and have coaches.
Yeah.
And because, as you've said before, and I think it's super relevant, is people can get in their own way.
Oh, yeah.
And coaching doesn't have to be, let's go team. Coaching can be almost sometimes a bit like therapy in some ways. Um, in and what I mean by that is sometimes as a business owner, you're kind of, and this is where TCA obviously, and this isn't a plug, TCA kind of comes in sometimes. But as the business owner on your own, you are making those decisions on your own, and your sounding board a lot of the time can be your wife, your husband, your best mate. But none of them are in, or rarely are they in the same industry, or are they in a position of experience to be able to give you the advice that you need. And I think that's where I think coaching can be really powerful, like what you spoke about here, right? So if you said to somebody, you coach somebody about going on holiday,
Hmm.
like that's not one of the things you'd expect on a USP when you're reading about coaching. We'll coach you how to go on holiday. But that is really, really important, and that's had a massive impact on that person's life. And that's just one part of it, right? That's just one small part of what that
Yeah,
is.
it is. It is. I think, I mean, I love coaching. I've had therapy and I've had a coach and have both of them on and off all the time and highly recommend both. They are very different. So, coaching is action orientated. So, it's a collaboration between two people, and the coach is there as a guide and a mirror and a challenger. So, if somebody wants to achieve something, get somewhere, um, et cetera, whatever that may be, the coach's role is to kind of go with them on that journey. And I always say one of the biggest reasons we don't get to where we want to be is we stand in our own way. That the coach is there to remove that obstacle.
Mm,
So really understand and help that person understand what it is that they're doing that's stopping them get to where they want to be. Um, Through guiding, questioning, mirroring, supporting, offering suggestions at the last part. I truly believe that most people know actually what they need to do. That isn't the issue. The issue is the implementation.
mm.
Um, so coaching is highly valuable, and there is a distinct return on investment for coaching. Um, so, I 100% believe that my clients will get back multiples of what they invest in the coaching partnership in the additional results that they'll have achieved in their business, in their life, however they want to use their coaching. And you use the example of the holiday. That was one very small facet of a bigger kind of coaching aspiration. Um, but yeah, coaching is absolutely vital for business people if they are really serious about accelerating their growth. And I look at it as you can have continuous improvement. So year on year, getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Coaching is about breakthrough performance. So it's about not just the little wins, it's about catapulting upwards and
Yeah.
doing that within a set period of time. So, yeah, I'm a huge advocate of coaching. And as I said, I have coaching myself and supervision and therapy whenever I feel like I need it.
I think the other thing as well is that you kind of coaching takes the emotion out of some of the decisions that need to be made. And what I mean by that sometimes is that, you know, when something's happened and your first, like we talked about the chimp paradox the other week, your first emotional response is, I need to do da 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 da. This needs to happen, that needs to happen. When it's an emotional response rather than the actual proper response that needs to happen. It's that mental thought process, isn't it?
Mm.
About what you need to do and, take away how you feel. Let's look at the whole picture and how do we implement that? But again, multifaceted across that's just one part of what it is. And I just feel like sometimes if people understood what it was, I think more people would do it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think you're probably right. And but also, JK, you've got to be ready. Y- some coaching sometimes it's not the right thing for the person, and that's okay. And the other thing that I will say is the emotion that somebody feels in a situation is real. They're feeling it. The
Mm,
next question for a coach is that helpful? And also, what is that emotion telling us? Because there'll be a narrative underneath that is causing that emotion. So I never want to take away anybody's emotional experience. But what I do want to explore with them, with their permission, is that helpful? And also, what is the narrative underneath that's creating that emotional response? And is that something that they want to look at and work on? Often it happens in lots of different areas of the life, not just the one that we're talking about. So that's normally where real great change and growth happens, when you start to look underneath that.
cool. All right, one more last thing then. So we're just going to talk about very quickly. We've had people say, what can you do when it comes to any stale listings that you've got? And I always like to point to those four P's. I can't even speak. Presentation, promotion, patience, and price. And the presentation part of it is, is the house staged and styled correctly? Is there a video on the listing? Make sure you've got all of the marketing, the basics of the marketing covered. in terms of, how it's presented by the seller, but also by you as the agent. So, is the attention to detail there in all of the photos and the video, etc. The promotion, where is it being promoted? So, are you just relying on Rightmove, or are you looking at different angles of social media? One of the things I've adopted recently, from Dave, is the social media sort of holding the mic previews, um,
Yeah,
going
they
into a
look
bit
great,
more.
don't they? I like
Well,
those.
do you know what? It's actually had some real great interest. We're a
Yeah.
house that has sort of taken 2 weeks to get to market, and I think we've had like 6 or 7 inquiries, either on email or on social media, off the back of the videos. And it's just been a good litmus test of how good the price is, and whether we need to, adjust the price when the time comes. Um, those social media previews are really good. Things like your floor plan. Is your floor plan clear? Is your What was I going to say? The other thing is that I think sometimes if you've got a house that's a 4/5 bedroom, so there's a shower room on the ground floor, but the seller's got one of them geared up as a um, let's say a home office or a playroom, but it could be a bedroom. And if you're punching at the top end of the price range, if it could be a bedroom downstairs, so for example, there are washing facilities downstairs and it could be used as a bedroom. Sometimes, if you're at the top end of that bracket, rather than marketing as a 4 bed, marketing yourself as a 5 bed online
Mm,
as well.
mm,
Not just in the description. You can, obviously, the floor plan is there, and I'm not saying you should misdescribe a house, but if it could be used, because a lot of the time people are looking for 5 bedrooms because they want 4 bedrooms for them and the kids, and the extra bedroom to use as the home office.
mm,
And if they can make up their own mind about what that actually looks like in terms of, it could be a 5 bed instead of a 4 bed, because people are, the stock's at an 11-year high at the moment online, right? And there's more properties online, more people are going to be using more filters. Now, if you have got into your head you need a 5 bed because you need that extra space, if you're listed as a 4 bed and you could be used as a 5 bed, those filters are going to stop you being searched. So it's just another way to get people to see you online. The other thing is as well is that patience. So latest HPI data to go under offer across the country, regardless of house, is around 70 days.
mm.
So just explaining that to the client that, it could be a 70-day process before you go under offer. I mean, we had one recently that was almost 70 days on the nose. I mean, you couldn't write it. We'd had interest, a couple of people view, and we weren't bowled over with viewings, and then just happened to be on, day 65 they viewed it, day 68 they second viewed it, and then on day 70 they'd offered and we got it accepted. So sometimes a bit of patience is there, but also knowing the data behind it. The right move data is 12 weeks. If you're on the market for 12 weeks and you're not under offer or had any serious offers, you're only 14% likely to sell after that without changing the price. And that's a good conversation. I always have that with sellers on the initial selling consultation and just say, look, we'll know pretty quickly. And we've just had one recently where, I've been out to it and had valuations 40K higher from 2 different agents. And they kind of went against my advice. And I said, well, look, that's fine. Look, we can try it, but just know that this is really where we need to be. We tried it for 2 weeks, had nothing, had not even one viewing, I don't think. And they're chasing another house, so they're motivated. And I said, look, I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so, because it's not my style. But the objective here is to move, right? And how would you feel if you lost out on that other house? Oh, we'll be gutted, right? Well, how drastically is your life going to change over the next 5 to 10 years if we don't get that extra 20K that doesn't exist? Well, it's not. It's a nice to have. Right, great. We need to change the price.
Mm.
Literally, within probably not even 10 minutes of changing the price, 2 inquiries come in. One's a
Yeah.
cash buyer, wants to view, has viewed it, wants to second view it. We've had another 3 inquiries on the back of that again since. And, it does, whether you like to admit it or not, like as an agent, sometimes it is price. There is patience in play, but sometimes I think in your heart of hearts. And I had this conversation with this particular client, and she said, "Well, such and such is around the corner at X, Y, and Z." And I said, "Well, you're right, it is, but equally, it's not sold. Look at the sold comparables in the area and what's actually selling pound per square foot, and you can see pound per pound. Again, that's too much. The market doesn't agree. The market
Mm,
knows swap rates are coming down. Things are becoming more affordable, but I don't think personally. Again, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, yes, you can do things like social media. We've got the agent collaboration clauses within our contracts, so that if another agent has a buyer, quote unquote, we can work with other agents because quite often it is bullshit, and
mm,
it's just another way. The classic thing that comes through the door. I believe I have a buyer for your house. Please call me. Um, and the amount of times when you offer the agent the fee and the buyer they believed that would be interested in the house never materializes, but it just
mm.
protects you, and it just helps you to be seen by your client that you are genuinely doing everything to
Yeah.
ensure that they get a sale. So I just thought I would mention that at the end. But we're coming up to 50 minutes now. Time
Time
flies when you're
flies.
having fun. Is there anything else that obviously we've got our mastermind in a couple of weeks? We've got
Yeah,
some
can't
new
wait.
members that are coming as well, which is good. Anything you wanted to add before we cap off for the week?
No, I think we've covered loads there, JK. Absolutely loads. We'll save it. We'll save some more good stuff for the next
Cool.
chat.
Well, I'd like to report Dave, Annie, and are alive and well, sunning themselves. And this will be the best performing podcast ever that we've ever done. And we will look forward to seeing you all next week.
Bye.